Communication means I articulate what I want in a way that you're able to understand. However, if you don't understand, it's not my fault, by the way.
Okay.
To me, individualism really means knowing yourself, knowing what you are, what you like, what you love, what your values are, independent of everyone else.
I feel like what you're describing is a very healthy 1 in like 10 relationships. Let me explain why. When people get married, I really don't like talking about marriage on this podcast, funny enough. But when people get married, submission is used like a dangling carrot. You're told you have to submit to your husband. So if your husband says you're going to the mountain, guess what? You'll be heading to that mountain. It doesn't matter what you want. So I feel like that's where most women get lost.
Yeah.
The submission part. Then you like, where do I come in? Because what the man says goes. And most of people become lost.
Before you get married, your aunties call you and tell you, for example, oh, you need to be a submissive wife. Oh, your husband is your first child. All those things.
God, I don't know why that just annoyed the heck out of me.
I know.
What is that? I'm also a child.
I know.
Literally.
He is not my child.
You know.
He's a grown-up. I'm a grown-up. I was listening to Dr. Gabor Mate, and someone asked him, how is it that two siblings brought up by same parents, same home, but they're totally different. One is a drunkard, the other one is a straightforward PhD, doctor, everything. I need to teach my children that you're different from your brother, you're different from your sister. Find yourself.
And love yourself.
And love yourself. And also people need to learn how to, you cannot fill from an empty cup. Satisfy your needs, then now you can be able to use the overflow on others.
Hi guys, welcome back to yet another episode of the Rare View podcast. I am your host Rachel Anita kama kawaida, here to bring you insightful conversations and think about just what's going on in the community and society at large. Today I have a very, very special guest with me. You can see Adi to my match. It's royalty. It's giving everything, baby girl. I'm here with Christine Mugo. Christine, say hi to the audience.
Hi everyone, my name is Christine Mugo. I am a biochemist and a psychologist, and I'm here to have this very interesting conversation with Anita.
Thank you so much. I actually really like that you did biochem. I did a degree in entomology.
Oh, wow.
Never practiced, but it's so much fun to just know you can go back.
Never practiced too.
Really? Okay, that's a whole other topic. Today, guys, we want to talk about individuality in relationships. Christine, when you hear about this topic, what comes to mind? The first thing?
Being your authentic self. To me, individualism really means knowing yourself, knowing what you are, what you like, what you love, what your values are, independent of everyone else.
And when it comes to relationships, I find it a bit difficult. I don't know if you've noticed this before. When someone gets married, especially after people get married, women, we switch. We become completely different people. We actually become the female versions of our husbands. Sometimes it's very rare to find someone who will be, if they were like you, let's say a biochemist before that, after they are now a totally different person. Why is it important for someone to still maintain who they were even after?
Well, for me, first, I agree with you totally. And I think part of it is how society has socialized us. When you get married, you become Mrs. So-and-so.
Yeah.
You become Mama so-and-so. And you're lost. You don't remember who you were before these people came into your life. It's very important to continue being yourself and knowing your values and knowing what you love, even after marriage, even after having kids, because you have to be you need to be very self-conscious and self-aware for you to be able to cater for other people's well-being. I cannot be Christine, a good mother, if I'm not Christine, a good Christine.
That's actually really true. But now there are hindrances to this. You realize you're given a whole list of when you do this, you become this, you have to do this, you have to. How does someone find their path back to themselves? Now, at what point does someone actually, I want to say, realize, like unamka, you realize I have lost myself. How do I pick up? How do I find my way back to myself?
Well, first, do you really know yourself even before you get into these relationships? Because how are you going to find that you've lost yourself if you don't know yourself? So I believe it's very important, even as young people run to look for love, first find yourself. So that when you get lost in that relationship, you realize you've gotten lost. Because there's no way I will realize I'm lost if I didn't know who I am. Let me just give an example. If before I got married, I loved traveling, I will realize I'm lost when I get married and I have not traveled for years, yet it was my passion.
Yeah.
So the first thing is to really know who you are.
Before that.
Then after you get, when you start getting lost, you will realize, wow, what happened to me? What happened to the Christine who loves reading books? I have not even bought a book in years.
So many, yeah.
So you need to know yourself. Then you will be able to know when you get lost.
Realizing yourself, it's quite something, because I realize actually most people don't even have that grace to understand who they are. But anyway, you'll find yourself. This takes me to another point. Just the other day, I saw a post on social media. One of my friends, she's single. She said that people tend, when you get into a romantic relationship, you tend to nurture that and forget your friendships. Do you feel like this is one of the reasons why when someone gets married, actually the people literally cut off their friends? First of all, they're like, I don't know you, bye-bye, see you later in another life. And then they become a totally different person without their friends. How do you feel about that?
Well, friendships are dynamic. And to be honest, I am a believer that once you get into a relationship, you should not get lost and forget your friendships. However, there are friendships that will not be in line with your new life. For example, if I had friendships where my life was partying from Friday to Sunday, and here I am in a relationship where my boyfriend, my husband to be, my fiancé, wants to spend the weekend with me, I'll have to make a choice. I'll have to know what's more important to me. Not to mean that you leave your friendships, but you have to learn a balance. For example, you can be able to tell your friends, you know, I'm engaged this weekend, but we can meet on Thursday evening. We can have lunch on Wednesday. Have a balance, because once again, if you don't have a support circle around you, then it means you will not be able to flourish in any way.
Right. That is quite the however. You said, however, you have to learn how to balance all these things, especially as I don't know, I'm pinpointing women. I'm so sorry if it feels like I'm pitting against you guys, but I feel like Sisi Indio, mostly we tend to carve into what our partner is. Now, I have another scenario whereby you realize two people get together. One is very, very self-aware of what they like, what they want to do, and they have had healthy relationships around them. Then the other one is not self-aware. So how does this person who maybe might take offense in their partner being, balancing their friends, going for travel dates, doing all that when themselves they can't? How do you respect your partner's individuality without crossing boundaries?
Two things. I think there's a difference between individuality and independence. Me having my own individuality does not mean that I am independent of everyone else, of my husband, of my children. No. It means that I'm able to coexist myself, my authentic self, with the situations around me. Then boundaries. If I know there are things that I love doing probably, and my husband or my children don't enjoy doing, then I need to be able to communicate the same. Like I need to, for example, if I enjoy my Saturday afternoon reading a book, yet my husband wants to go out maybe for hiking, and I don't like hiking, I need to learn how to communicate the same. Unfortunately, there'll be a lot of friction because two individuals from different backgrounds coming together. We were not brought up the same. Everyone has their own values. How do we merge that? So we need to be also comfortable in the discomfort. Like, I need to know, if I tell you I'm not okay doing this, you might take offense.
Yeah.
But it's not my fault that you're taking offense. I probably need to learn how you will understand how to communicate so that you get what I am trying to say. So basically, communication and right way of communicating.
I always get back to this communication issue when it comes to relationships. I don't. Every time I talk about it, I realize the core. Okay, I don't know. Maybe to me, the core problem in most altercations is communication. You can communicate all you want, and the other person can also communicate, but sometimes inakuwa ngumu. So how do you forcefully say, now it's my me time? It's my me time, and it's my me time. I don't care if you guys are going to. Are you okay with it? It's my me time, and I'm taking my me time.
I wouldn't say you forcefully communicate, because then it won't be communication. Communication means I articulate what I want in a way that you're able to understand. However, if you don't understand, it's not my fault, by the way. To me, I will continue communicating.
Not my fault. You've already done your best.
I'll do my best. I'll let you ask all the questions you need to ask. I'll let you give your ideas, and then we can come to a consensus.
Okay.
If we decide, okay, then let's take a balance. You read for 1 hour, then spend time with me for 1 hour, because I understand how you. But you see, the problem is, if you did not start communicating from the beginning, then you can't just. It will be very difficult. Again, if you didn't know yourself from the beginning, then you will be telling this person new things. Because if I give an example, before I got married, I probably loved, let me just give the basic example, to read and watch series.
Yeah.
I don't love movies. When my husband met me, he knew I don't love movies. He knew I enjoy series. So that is my individuality. Christine loves series. So it's something that he already knew even before he got married to me. So when I try to communicate something concerning the same to him, it will not be difficult for him to understand, because that is me. That is who he met.
And you should accept your boundaries and who you are. And you've communicated it.
Not to be rigid, though, because some things you need to change and come to a consensus with each other. Not to be rigid. But there are some things that you will lose yourself. You will lose yourself if you always say yes to the other person, for example, and you don't take care of your own needs. I'll just give an example. Practical example of myself. I like giving examples about myself.
It's realistic.
It's realistic. When COVID hit, we were all working from home.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, before COVID hit, I had started working from home. When COVID hit, everyone started working from home. At some point, people went back to work after like an year, but I continued working from home. And then it hit me one day when I told my nanny, I am leaving. I'm going out with my friends after like 2 years. And she was stressed. Like, why are you leaving us? Oh, you don't leave the house?
Oh, no.
Why are you leaving us? And I realized, Christine, you've lost it.
Oh, no.
You have made yourself someone you're not.
Yeah.
She has never seen me leave the house. But that was not me. It was because of circumstances.
Yeah.
But you see, she learned that is her. So when I say I want to leave the house, and not just my nanny, but that one caught me off guard. My kids, I would have to explain to them, what time are you coming back? What time am I coming back? What have I gone to do? With who? Because
Why?
I had made, why are you leaving us? You're not used to leaving us. I'd made them believe my work is to stay at home.
I totally understand that. Wow. So how can a couple share goals that will ensure that each of them still has their individual, they preserve their individuality and also work on their togetherness?
Wow. First, you need to be intentional.
Yeah.
Very intentional in what you want to achieve at the end of it. Because if you're not intentional, you will feel like, I might want us to go this direction.
Mm-hmm.
You want us to go this other direction. But what do we have to gain? Can we find a way in the middle? And it's a balance always in relationships, is what I think. You have to find a balance. You have to find your pros and cons. If we do this, how do we gain? How do we lose? If we do this other way, how do we gain? How do we lose? So where do we find our balance?
Mm-hmm.
So I believe communication again comes in again.
Communication. Yeah.
Yes. So you have to learn to say, you see, my goal this year. And first, talking of goals, you need to have your own personal goals before you get to couple goals. Because I need to know where I want to be so that now we can incorporate each other too. You help me go where I want to be. I help you go where you want to be. Because if I don't have my own goals, then I've lost my individuality.
Yeah.
So set your own goals, and this year Christine wants to make 5 million.
Mm-hmm.
How is my husband coming into this? Is he even able to come into this? As a couple, how much do we want to make financially? For example, where do we want to go for holiday? For example, he probably wants to go where there's a beach. I want to go where there's the mountains. How do we come to a consensus? Yeah. So I need to know what I love, who I am. He needs to know who he is, what he loves. I need to understand him. He needs to understand me.
I feel like what you're describing is a very healthy 1 in 10 relationships. Let me explain why. When people get married, I really don't like talking about marriage on this podcast, funny enough. But when people get married, submission is used like a dangling carrot. You're told you have to submit to your husband. So if your husband says you're going to the mountain, guess what? You'll be heading to that mountain. It doesn't matter what you want. So I feel like that's where most women get lost. Yeah. The submission part. Then where do I come in? Because what the man says goes. And most of people become lost.
I honestly blame, I don't want to say blame in a very loose manner, the society and how we were socialized. How are we brought up? Before you get married, your aunties call you and tell you, for example, oh, you need to be a submissive wife, or your husband is your first child. All those things.
God, I don't know why that just annoyed the heck out of me.
I know.
What is that? I'm also a child.
I know.
Literally.
He is not my child.
You know.
He's a grown-up. I'm a grown-up. We were brought up in separate ways, very different ways, most people. But when we come together, it does not mean that I need to merge into your ways. Because we just need to pick best practices. I probably was brought up in a home where people sit down and have discussions about things. And he has never seen that maybe. So is it a best practice to do what he has seen or what works? And that's where, again, individualism comes in. You need to know your rights and your wrongs. You need to know your values for you to be able even to grow your relationship. And not just marriages, by the way. Even sibling relationships, to be honest. I was listening to Dr. Gabor Mate, and someone asked him, how is it that two siblings brought up by same parents, same home, but they're totally different. One is a drunkard, the other one is a straightforward PhD, doctor, everything. And bottles down to individualism. All these people, the two people were brought up, but each had their own individuality. One was brought up and they decided, they probably even experienced their parents in a different way. There's a way you tell one child something and their interpretation is different from the other.
Yeah.
So even in your sibling relationships, individualism has to be there. I do not have to be like my brother. I do not have to be like my sister.
True.
So you just need to know who you are.
Yeah. Now that brings me to my last point, which is way kind of from what we're talking about. When parents pit siblings against each other, you find they're comparing the siblings. They are always, why not as good as Nani? Why not doing this as your brother did this? When he was your age, your brother did this, or your sister did this. How do you feel this manifests in their relationships when they are much more grown?
comparison maybe is what you're talking about. If your parents decide you need to be like your sister, you need to be like your brother, why have you not achieved what they have achieved? First, it gives a lot of pressure to the person in adulthood, and they will probably just first people please, or they will tend to become overachievers also because they want to be what they were told to be.
Wow.
And that can manifest in relationships by a lot of friction because you don't want to find a balance. Let's go.
It's my way or
the highway. Or you will get stressed because all you want to do is what the other person is telling you to do.
So where is the root of this problem? How do we fix people being...
We need to change, as I said, society. Here we are now. We know we need to find our individual self. What are we doing? I need to find myself before I get into that relationship. I need to teach my children that you're different from your brother, you're different from your sister. Find yourself.
And love yourself.
And also people need to learn how to, you cannot fill from an empty cup. Satisfy your needs. Then now you can be able to use the overflow on others.
And the Bible puts it, love your neighbor as you love yourself. You have to love yourself before you can even reach to other people. And I guess that's it for today. Nakafunga tu hivyo, guys. Do you have any takeaway for my audience today?
Takeaway is, before you find love, find yourself.
Before you find love, find yourself. And that is it with Rachel. With Rachel, Anita, and Christine Mugo. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Christine, for joining us.
Thank you for
such beautiful insights, such deep. I feel like this is one of those episodes where people will be watching, pause, think about their lives, and then come back to continue the episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And guys, don't forget to share, subscribe, comment, and all that. We love you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.